guys, this is Flight Sim Global Team, and today we're going to be teaching you how to properly prepare for flights on VADSIM or IVAO, and even if you're doing single player routes. So a lot of the new aircraft today, like the PMDG 737 or the new aircraft, the PMDG 777 or the Airbus X, have advanced FMCs that you need to be properly prepared for in your pre-flight staging of the flight. And today I'm gonna give you some resources to use, especially when you're in those vital pre-flight stages. So this is going to go pretty fast. Feel free to pause, look back, and make sure you know all your stuff before beginning the flight. So first I'm going to take you to this website called FlightAware. And this is a live flight tracking database used to track all the flights in the world and give more detailed information about them. And it has them all on this stock website, which is pretty neat. First, we're going to click on this link called Pilot Resources. So we're just going to click on that. You're going to go ahead, click on where it says Recently Used IFR Routes. It should be blue. Once we get here, this is where we can go ahead, put in our route for today. So I'm going to give you an example route today for KPHL to KBOS. You're going to go ahead, select Find Routes. This is a general detailed information page of routes that were done of this in real life and routes that are actually being done. So for example, we have this JetBlue aircraft right now that's in final approach for KBOS that did this route exactly. We're going to go back here. I'm going to show you more about this page. Here we have all the routes that were done for this specific route. So every route that was ever done using this scenario is down here, over here in the highlighted area. We're going to go ahead, go through each column and let you guys know what it's about. So first we have our frequency. We know that this route was used 49 times, since this is a 49 frequency. We have a 13 frequency, so this was done 13 times. Then we have a 6 as a frequency, this was done 6 times, and etc. for all the rest. We're going to choose the top one, which is done the most times, which is 49 times this route has been done. We have origin destination. We have our altitude for today. So this is an odd route. So we're going to go from flight level 230. And you can choose between this envelope to flight level 290. But because it's such a short route, I'm just going to go from flight level 230. Then we have a full route, which is the ditch to J225 to JFK to Cran 3. And lastly, we have our distance over there, 304 kilometers. So first off, we already know our altitude that we're going to be flying today. We have our origin and we have our destination. We just need to take our route and we have to carry it over. So I want to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to carry it over to this flight called SimRoutes. This is a great resource here, SimRoutes website. It's for basically taking our routes and putting it into information that we can more understand, having a map with it so we can better pre-flight stages of our flight. Search routes here is the page that I currently have up. This is generally a FlightAware page for Flight Sim. So I'm going to go ahead and type in KPHL to KBOS, and we'll go ahead and click Find Plans. As you can see here, we have routes that were done in Flight Sim already, or routes that were already generated with SimRoutes here. So we can either click on one of these routes and choose and follow what these people did, or we can generate our own, which I'm going to do today. So we can go ahead, click here on Generate Route, and we're going to go ahead and paste our route in where we have our route selection there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put our departure, which is KPHL, and then Philadelphia International appears there. I'm going to do our arrival, KBOS. General Edward Lawrence Logan Airport is what it's called, but usually I'm going to refer to it as Boston International. We're going to choose our SID, which is our standard instrument departure. Currently we have ditch here, which is our first waypoint in this route, and we're going to look out here. This specific airport, Philly 8, has, as you can see here, has all the same standard instrument departures, which is the Philly 8 departure. We're going to be doing the Philly 8 dot ditch because ditch is the first waypoint and it's going from the Philly 8. Usually, sometimes you would have another waypoint here in the front to indicate which one is the actual SID. And usually how you'd know is it would usually have a number behind it, Philly 8. And we can go ahead delete ditch, because if we put ditch in there, it will duplicate. Then we go over to our star because we want to have procedures for landing. CRAN 3 is the one with the number at the end, so we know that this is already our star, and this JFK is what we're going to be going to before we go to the actual star. So we can click on this drop down menu, and then we see that we have JFK.CRAN2. Sometimes the numbers will be off. This is common and it is nothing to be alarmed about. So we can go ahead, click JFK.CRAN2, and once we have that in, we can go ahead and delete this because we do not want it to duplicate. We can go ahead, click generate route, take some time to generate, and once we have this detailed information about our exact route, so we have the J225 from Philadelphia, as you can see this long line here, then we go to JFK, which is the VOR right above the John F. Kennedy Airport, and then we have all the rest of the waypoints on our CRAN 2 star, which is not really indicated in our route, our original route, but it is within the CRAN 2 star. As you can see the via here, all these extra routes here that we didn't put in before, they are derived from that. Alright, so next thing we have to do is we have our route. We would put it into our FMC as this, and if you don't know how to do that, I'm going to list some detailed tutorials on how you can put in your routes onto your FMC of your aircraft. Once you've done that, we're going to go to another website because we need to figure out what our fuel is for today. So there's a really nice website called fuelplanner.com. This is not used for real world, for all you real world pilots out there looking for an easy way to plan your fuel. No, this is not for you, but this is for the flight simulation fuel planning. So on this drop down menu, we're going to go all the way and choose our specific aircraft. We have multiple aircrafts here, and we have even specific aircrafts to their specific manufacturers. So we have the fuel there, we even have Wilco, and there's a specific one for the iFly PMDG, which we're going to select today. Reason why? Some advanced aircraft, payware aircraft, have their own specific type of fuel planning that they believe is more realistic than the default, so they have their own setup there. We're going to go ahead and put in our KPHL origin to our KBOS, which is our destination. We can go ahead and select planner, and once we do, in big letters right here, well, big numbers, sorry, big numbers right here, we have our total fuel in pounds. We have our exact nautical miles, 243 nautical miles from and to the airport, and we even have a reserve fuel for those PMDG users that have that reserve fuel in their FMC. I'm not too sure about the Airbus X, but for reserve fuel we have 6,099 pounds. What you would do, you'd put into the FMC 6.0. For VADSIM, when we go over to the SimRoutes page, what's so neat about this SimRoutes page is that you can even file online. So you have your specific filing online here that you can put in. This is generally what you're going to see in your programs like Squawk Box or even for IVAO. I'm pretty sure you're going to have this information here. And on fuel on board, you're going to want to put in your exact fuel on board, especially when you're planning in. Fuel on board, you have all this information here on the time, fuel usage that you're actually going to use today. You have your hours of reserve fuel, and you have the actual amount of fuel on board, which is very, very neat. All fuel weights are in pounds, so that's just for different people that use different types of unit conversions. Back to our SimRoutes page, you also have this neat utility here where you get to click on this drop down menu and you get to download the specific route for any of the selected aircraft here, or even Squawk Box or FSX. And this is very, very neat if you want to skip any of your planning stages here. For example, if we didn't want to put our route into the PMDG and GX manually, we'd select PMDG, download the flight plan, and there are certain tutorials online on how to put that into your file menu. I'm not going to explain it right now because of our limited time. So, back to our route planning. We have our fuel and we have our route that we're going to put in. What do we need to know before we call that tower or before we take off? What runway should I be taking off from? What runway should I be landing on? And this is a really asked question from a lot of people out there. And the website I like to use is AirNav. Really nice website. This can be used for real world and simulator. So we're going to go ahead. We have our KPHL. We're going to go ahead and pull up KPHL first. This is the AirNav for KPHL, and then once we get onto the website, we can see here. We can go ahead and download the PDF here to the airport diagram, only because this airport diagram is really small while I'm doing that. Some of the airport diagrams are really big, so you won't have to download it. But there's a PDF viewer here, so we can see we have detailed runways of 26, we have 35, we have 27 right, we have 27 left, we have 9 right, we have 9 left, we have 17. All those runways we have to choose from when taking off. How do we know which runway should we take off from? You're going to listen to ATIS, figure out the wind speed, or you can come down here and look at the METAR data. METAR data is this line of code that is very confusing at first. I'm going to insert some websites where you can go to figure out how to read metadata, but we're only going to focus on the wind speeds for today. We have 210 as seen here at 06 knots. I'm sorry if you can't see this through the small YouTube playback, but just let me bring it up and put it into the search bar so it's a little bit bigger. So on that second line of coding that was highlighted here, you can see in bigger letters, well, numbers, sorry, we have 210 to 06 knots. It's separated even though it's together. So again 210 degrees that the wind is flowing to 06 knots. That's a speed. Sometimes you'll see a number in between, like 19 G, meaning that's 19 gusts. So you can ignore the gusts. What we're going to be focusing on is the common wind speed. That's for flight sim users, not necessarily for real life usage. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back. We have our wind speed, and we're going to choose the runway that's closest to that direction. So usually we'd be focusing on 210. And we're going to choose the runway out of all these here, which is closest to that 210 number. And the closest I see to that is either 17 or 27 or 26. Either one. I believe 17 is the closest match. Yeah, I believe so. And then we have 26. Yes, 17 would be the closest match. Usually for this airport you'd be taking off on 27 left, but because of the wind speeds, 17 would be our closest match for today. Once we have our departure runway, we can go ahead and put that into our FMC. And then this depends specifically on different airlines in real life, but usually I like to plan my landing runway when I'm on the ground at my origin. So the URL here says www.airnav.com/airport/kphl. All you have to do is highlight KPHL at the end, type in KBOS, click enter, refreshes the page with a new airport. May take some while. There we go. Alright, so this is a great example of a bigger airport diagram where we don't have to download the actual PDF. We're going to go ahead, look at our METAR data. So it says 220 at 13 knots. So we're just going to focus on the direction 220. We're going to look for the runway that's closest to that. Today we're in favor, and there's a runway that's exactly at 220. So we're going to look for that runway here. We're probably going to land on 22 left. since it's longer, or maybe 22 right. It's really up to the controller what he says. So yeah, let's just choose 22 right because it's closer to the terminals. We're gonna leave the longer runways for the departing jets. I'm not exactly sure the procedure to this, but 22 right we're gonna use. Then we're gonna take that information and knowledge and we're gonna put that into our FMC as well. You're always gonna be landing with that headwind. You're always gonna be taking off with that headwind. That's the usual fact of it. And gonna be going back. So generally all that information that I just explained to you should be into your FMC. There's an easier way to look up the metadata. It should be up here as well, but I usually don't really focus on that too much. I usually go with AirNav because I believe that's a little bit more accurate. You have the altitudes of the airport here as well, in case you need to put in your landing altitude. For KBOS it's 19 MSL since it's right by the water. Once you have all that information, it should be pretty self-explanatory from there. You take off, and when you're landing on this AirNav page, you even have more detailed information about the landing runway. I guess I was in correction there. You're actually supposed to land on 22 left since there's no landing approach procedure for 22 right. So it would be 22 left that we'd be landing on. So we click on download that and you'd have this information here needed on landing. There's many tutorials on how to read this information here, and maybe in the future I might do an episode on how to read that information as well. I thank you guys for sitting in with me on today. Please use these resources. It will help you gain more knowledge and over time increase the fidelity of your flight simulating experience, and I hope this will help you over time with practice. It will get better. And leave a comment down below of what you want me to discuss maybe in the next episode and how this has helped you. Thank you very much guys, and I'll see you soon.